This is Random Theology, and I am just testing this out. I've never used YouTube before when it comes to live streaming, so this is a test, and if it goes well, then I'll just go ahead and publish it. And this will be my first test, and I'll just be brief. All right, so what I would like to do is just briefly discuss some of the books I've been reading and recommend them to anybody that is a viewer of my YouTube channel. So what I'd like to recommend first off is a book that was recently published, and it's going to be Why Should I Believe Christianity? And it was written by Dr. James N. Anderson from Reformed Theological Seminary in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he has been lecturing on the subject of theology and philosophy at Reformed Theological Seminary. And in fact, many of his lectures are available either on iTunes or on the Reformed Theological Seminary app. And I do recommend my viewers to download the app and listen to his lectures on apologetics and the history of philosophy. But this particular work was for a popular audience, and it was on the subject of theology and philosophy and apologetics, specifically for inquirers of the Christian faith, and then for Christians that wish to be able to communicate the truth of the gospel to people that may not believe Christianity or who are skeptical. So it is a apologetic thrust. That's going to be the vantage point of this book. And what is fascinating about it is that Dr. Anderson has this wonderful ability to communicate concepts that are philosophical in nature, that are complex. He's able to make them simple without being simplistic. And he does that on the topics of God's existence, taking the presuppositional argument, the transcendental argument, and making it simple. And I would suggest that it's more simple than K. Scott Oliphant's book, Covenantal Apologetics. I think Dr. Oliphant, he's a wonderful speaker, lecturer, and theologian, philosopher, but I don't think that he is as successful, in my opinion, as Dr. Anderson is in communicating the transcendental argument in a way that is captivating and is able to penetrate with precision his audience to a popular level. And Dr. Anderson successfully does that, I believe. And he goes through some of the classical arguments for God's existence. And I think off the top of my head, design argument, the teleological argument. He spends some time in the area of God's existence. And then he moves forward. He talks about worldviews and how to properly evaluate worldviews. And he gives his, instead of speaking about his 8 principles, which he commonly speaks about, which is going to be coherence, consistency, and experience, livability, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, he boils it down to less than 8. And he uses coherence, consistency. He, instead of using experience, he says evidence. And he goes into detail precisely how to critique or analyze and evaluate a worldview to successfully compare it to the Christian worldview. And he does spend a lot of time, which is something I deeply appreciate in the book. He spends a lot of time articulating the Christian worldview. So this book is, the targeted audience is going to be Christians, but it's great for non-believers because Dr. Anderson preaches the gospel in the book, and he articulates the Christian worldview with precision. And I'm just trying to think of some of the, I should mention that he does use wonderful analogies and illustrations to make his points. And I think what you'll find very valuable in this book is he takes Judaism and Islam and not the flying spaghetti monster, but like the Bigfoot or a Yeti, and he uses these specific worldviews or beliefs as a springboard to show the exclusivity or the uniqueness of the Christian worldview. And often we are charged, if you're a presuppositionalist, you're going to be charged with the objection that it's not exclusive. The transcendental argument only proves classical theism, which is precisely what the traditional arguments are able to do. So there is no difference between the traditional arguments and the presuppositional argument, the transcendental argument. And Dr. Anderson gives some great insights on how, as presuppositionalists, we defend Christianity and how these objections fail. So something to investigate further, which is probably going to make you excited about the book. And how do we prove that the Bible is the Word of God? Dr. Anderson spends a whole chapter dealing with that subject. And he deals with the incarnation briefly and how it is paradoxical, but we do believe that it's coherent. And I really appreciate Dr. Anderson's appeal when it comes to evolution, talking about Alvin Plantinga's evolutionary argument, and it also lines up with C.S. Lewis's The Argument from Reason. I really appreciate how Dr. Anderson presses that particular issue in the book. I'm trying to look through some quotes I can read. Let's see here. Well, he encourages unbelievers to read the Bible and not just simply say that it's false because that's just what they've been told. Excuse me. Dr. Anderson encourages his readers to actually have an educated understanding before making an assessment. So I recommend that book. I don't have James, excuse me. I do not have Dr. John Frame's book, but I've been also reading that book, A History of Western Philosophy and Theology. And I do enjoy the book. I was hoping it was more like Gordon H. Clark's book, From Thales to Dewey. And it does, in some aspects, have similar elements. It is a comprehensive history of philosophy, and it is a lengthy book with contemporary theologians and philosophers. And I do enjoy the pictures and the outlines, but I do hope that in the future, with revisions, that Dr. Frame gives more critical analysis of the differing views and differing schools that he articulates. He gives their views, but he doesn't always give a critique. And that was something I was hoping for, and I felt like I got some of it, but I didn't get the full expectation met. But I'm still reading it, and I do greatly appreciate Dr. Frame's comments on Gordon H. Clark. Excuse me. And I'm enjoying his discussion about Thomas Reed. And yeah, so I would recommend that book as well. And then for philosophy and for those that are studying philosophy, I have to point to J.P. Moreland and William Lane Craig's book, Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview, because it is a book that has been a reference for me even since I've received a degree in philosophy. There's all the concepts that you would learn to get a bachelor's degree in philosophy, Dr. Craig and Dr. Moreland go through in that book. So I highly recommend it. I've been told through Dr. Craig's lectures that he is revising the manuscript, and he's going to include a chapter on the atonement, because Dr. Craig has worked extensively on the subject of the atonement lately in his research project. And I do hope that he will add his views on abstract objects and have a friendly dialogue with J.P. Moreland, because J.P. Moreland holds to a view that Dr. Craig no longer holds to. So that would be very, very intriguing to see the interaction between them in the text, which I doubt they will do, but I would hope that they would do that. That would show great intellectual honesty on both of them. Not to say that they're not, they are, but they tend to not be direct on their own view. They tend to show possible models and do not take a position. And I would love to see them both take a position, defend it against one another. That would be excellent. And then another book for, I've been studying God's relationship to space, just briefly. And another book that I've greatly enjoyed is going to be Ronald Nash's book. I'm looking for it on my shelf. Well, it's Ronald Nash's book, The Concept of God. And it's a helpful short book, but I think Craig and Moreland's book is going to be the best when it comes to philosophical theology as an introduction. It's a great starting point to begin, and it's great for people that are philosophically, I would say that they're not novice, that they have philosophical training. It's an excellent reference regardless. So those are 3 books that I would recommend that I'm currently still going through. And this gives me an opportunity to experiment with YouTube. And if you like this video, please indicate it in the comments, and I will, Lord willing, make some more. So blessings on you.